I'm Richard Osborne. I founded and run a company called Business Data Group.
So our first question from Isbrook School is, what was your first job and what path did you take to get to the job that you're in now?
So my first job was absolutely nothing related to what I do now. So my first proper job, I was a kitchen designer for a commercial catering company, and it was done as a what's called the YTS scheme, which is close to maybe a bit like apprenticeships, where I had training on the job, earned a salary, and used a CAD station or computer aided design system.
So from starting to kitchen designs to where you're working now. So what do careers around computing, ICT involve, and what kinds of jobs do you have within your company?
Working in ICT technology is so broad, and there's lots of opportunities to get involved in industries that you find particularly interesting. You could say that if you think about logistics, you could be within ICT and logistics, and you run the GPS tracking systems and sort of the freight forwarding systems for deliveries. With us, we have two areas of the business. So part of what we do is like very fancy websites. So website design, internet technology that captures information for people who want to set up their own companies, and then it sends that information to government departments, and then allows some of our other customers, like banks, for example, to run queries on that data to find out what type of companies are being set up in UK at the moment, what areas of the country are the busiest or most successful for business, that sort of analyze all that information. So the other part of the business takes as a really big database, and then I have members of my staff who are programmers who work out ways how to get into that information and run reports from it. And then I could also say we have another part of the business that is a social media platform. So we have members of my team who run that platform and make sure that people can still interact and talk to each other and like each other's posts. It's very broad and wide.
So fantastic, and sounds really, really interesting. But for someone coming from school, university, college, I guess one of the questions that they'll have that Daventry Hill asked was, do you get training, and what's the actual training like to make sure that you can do the job well?
We have I'd use like a bit of a mentor type system, because qualifications, although sometimes they will look at qualification if somebody's gone to university and done a computer science degree, and we'll look at behind that what did you do as part of your projects. But what we really look for is, are you interested in programming? And then you'll be working alongside a colleague, one of the senior programmers in that part that you work with, and they will mentor you. They will sort of give you small projects, work through, show you best practice, hold your hand metaphorically as you're sort of building up your skill set. And then gradually you'll be start to give them small projects of your own that you'll be said, right, we want you to do this, and left to your own devices to build it up over time. And those projects will get bigger and bigger as your skills develop. But the main part is training is done by mentoring. And then we also do, if there's a particular good book, we'll get a book of Amazon and say, here's something that's worth reading. Or there is also some online courses. Treehouse is one of the services, for example, that we subscribe to.
Brilliant. And once people are in, they've had this training, what sorts of senior roles can people progress to within your company?
The best example is my CTO, or Chief Technical Officer. He's been with me when he came he came from university, came straight out of university as a trainee, and he was mentored by somebody. And now he has shares in the company and he runs the whole IT part of the business. So all of the developers who work for us report to him. So there's a good career opportunities there. Generally speaking, if somebody came in at a trainee level, we look to progress people through and provide them with the training, not just for us, but it helps develop them on the careers. So if somebody does end up leaving us for whatever reason because they want to go and work in a different sector, we give them the foundations to help them progress through their career, whichever way that takes them.
Brilliant. And in terms of your particular role, what do you have to do as a manager? And that question comes from Daventry Hill School.
So for me, my title is CEO. So I am the boss. Everything stops with me. So basically what that means is, most importantly, is I make the tea for everybody. And but on a more serious note, my job is to make sure that everybody within the company has all the tools they need, resources they need to do, and training they need to do the job to the best of their ability. I look after the staff. If you imagine an orchestra at a theatre, when theatres are back open again, and and everybody around in that orchestra plays their own instruments, and they are experts in that particular instrument and that piece of music. The music sheet in front of them is relative to what they're doing. At the front of the orchestra is the conductor, and the conductor is overseeing and just making sure everybody comes in at the right time, is running at the right pace, and that is my role. I am the conductor for the business. It's my job to make sure that everybody is able to do their job to the best of their ability and is happy doing so.
Fantastic. And for people who might want a career within your company or similar, is there a kind of minimum age that people have to be to work for you? And that question comes from Red Kite School.
Well, there's a legal minimum age, but for us, what's more important, if we're recruiting and you wanted to work for Business Data Group, one of the most important things that we would look for from an ICT perspective, because we have different jobs in sales, marketing, and so on. From ICT, is we're looking for a portfolio. We like people who enjoy programming, people who get a buzz out of developing web applications, websites, web projects, and show us that portfolio. Show us what it is that you've done, and talk us through some of the difficulties you had and how you overcame those challenges, and even things that you've tried to do that haven't worked out, and just walk us through it. From an age perspective, it really does depend on where you're joining from. So if you're joining straight out of school on an apprenticeship type level, then that's 16. Or just as you leave school, for anybody who's depending on where you are in the year. And then if you're coming out of university, then that'd be 18, and then you would join at sort of a graduate, sort of junior developer kind of level. The age restrictions are governed by law, not by us.
Fantastic. And you've covered this a little bit already, but in terms of qualifications, you mentioned there that actually in some ways skills and experiences can be just as important. So is there any advice that you'd give to people on that area?
I think the portfolio aspect is the key thing, really. Qualifications, exam qualifications are a way sort of quickly sifting through CVs, and a portfolio stands out above everything else. So if we're going through university graduates, for example, and we've just got CVs, then we'll quickly look at the qualifications, because if you've got 100 CVs to go through, it's the quickest way to work through. As harsh as that is, it is just the way it works. If you've got a portfolio, then you're getting an audience with us. You're getting us to sit down and look at what you've done, and then we love to look at your code, and we love to hear about how you do it. And what that shows us is you're doing this because you've put your free time into it, your spare time, to do something because you like it. And if you enjoy doing something, your skills just naturally improve so much better, so much quicker, and you'll be a better programmer for that. So that's what stands out for us. The qualifications are secondary. They're sort of a bit of a sifting through. But if you wanted to stand out, it wouldn't just be us, it would be any sort of companies that are revolved around web programming type jobs. Build a portfolio of projects that you've built, and it could be anything from an online game, it can be a website with a bit of database behind it that keeps scores for a football team. It really doesn't matter what the project is, it's what the project does.
In terms of hours of work, some industries there's a very typical 9 till 5. What sort of hours of work would you expect to do if we were working for Business Data Group?
We don't have fixed hours. Our full-time contract is, we're looking for you to do about 7 hours of productivity per day. And the reason we work on 7 hours of productivity is, if if you're really like an early morning person and you prefer to start work at 4 o'clock in the morning, start clock at 4 o'clock in the morning. And if you'd like about a 3-4 hour lunch break, take a 3-4 hour lunch break. And if you're more of an evening afternoon person and prefer to work until 9 o'clock at night, work till 9 o'clock at night. Adjust your start time, your breaks, everything like that, so that in amongst all that, you do about 7 hours work. That's how our contracts work. It means that people, whether you work to live or live to work, it's getting that balance right. So all of us have personal lives, family lives, hobbies, and also some people are morning people, some people are afternoon people. So what works best for you? All I'd be looking for is for you to do about 7 hours work a day, but fit that 7 hours in what works best for you.
And this question from Daventry Hill always makes me smile. Are all companies nice to their rivals?
Sadly, not all companies are, but in technology, particular internet technology type businesses, generally they are. There's a lot of news groups, discussion forums, Reddit, subreddits, where people who work in internet technology specifically all have the common goal of making the internet a better place. So what they do, they'll share best practice, help each other out. If you're in, there's a particular website called Stack Overflow, for example, which if you're a developer, you sometimes turn to and say, I'm trying to do something here and I'm really stuck in this code. And other people will turn around and answer the questions and say, you're going wrong there, mate. What you need to do is do this. I've found the technology industry sector, and in particular, if you're working in technology based around the internet, places like that, they are very supportive and people do help each other out.
A question from Daventry Hill. Has COVID made working life difficult for you, and how as a business have you had to cope, or how have you adapted?
From the business perspective, we adapted very well because we already had remote working and things set up within our business. So as part of our contracts, where you don't have to come to the office to work. If you want to work from the beach in Barbados, as long as you're getting the job done, that's great. So we have a lot of remote access. Our phone system comes through the computer. We're not using physical phones. Everything like that is all online. So when it came to lockdown and people had to shut their offices up and work from home, it was easy. I just turned around to everyone and said, we won't come into the office from tomorrow. And everyone's like, yeah, fine. And that was it. The only thing that has been an impact and which we have missed is seeing each other, being able to sort of sit around. We have an Xbox in the office. So, every now and again over a lunch, we're sitting there getting a burger from the cafe on the industrial estate, sitting down, playing a bit of Call of Duty for 20 minutes, half hour, just having a chinwag with our colleagues together. That we miss. And that's not just business, that's family. That's the environment as it is at the moment. What affects everybody else about getting together with friends has affected us because we are all friends who we work with. But technically, actually, the ability to do our job, we were unaffected.
And a couple of final questions. What inspired you to work within the industry that you do? And that came from Daventry Hill.
I just found it fascinating. It really is fascinating. How does a computer work? How does electricity come in through a plug on the wall, go into this chipboard of squares and make graphics appear on a screen and stuff happen? And that's where my fascination started. I just found it all just so interesting. And then I started to learn how to make those things change on the screen, and one of my first programs I wrote was making a hot air balloon drift across the screen with the Commodore 64 logo on it, which was in the manual that came with my first computer. And it just went from there. I started writing database programs to store a journal. I ended up writing a program that enabled me to keep a diary. And then it went on and I started writing a few very basic games, and it just evolved from there and there. And it was just born out of just being fascinated. How does this even work? And then the more complex the programs I wrote got, the more interesting they got. And then it became a business. And ultimately, I now get paid to do stuff that I enjoy doing.
Brilliant. And a final question. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you started out in your career?
In my career now, um, there's two parts to it really. Because I run my own business, so I started my own business. So my career I created myself, and I really had two challenges really. One was confidence. When I started my own business, I was so nervous about trying to get customers, speak to customers, meet people, and my business would have grown quicker if I'd pushed myself that bit, gone out of my comfort zone, and as scary as it was, just did it. But that's gradually built up over time. Would I have got any further forward? Because I never went to university. I never studied programming. Everything I know about programming, I taught by myself by reading books and just experimenting. I might have done, but reality is I am where I am now, doing what I'm doing now, and I'm happy where I am now. So it's something. There's an old saying, "Don't look back in anger," kind of thing. I sometimes wonder if I'd pushed myself harder out of my comfort zone, it might have made a difference. But I don't look back and worry about it. It's just a question that I wonder sometimes may have helped me.
Richard, thank you so much for your time. It's been brilliant to talk to you. Thank you on behalf of all the students in the schools that are going to see this video.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.